Welcome to the Sheckler Spotlight, where creativity meets purpose and conversation goes deeper. Join host Harrison Sheckler as he sits down with inspiring guests from all walks of life, artists, thinkers, musicians, and everyday heroes, to explore the stories that shape us, uplift us, and connect us. Now here's your host, Harrison Sheckler.
Hello, I'm your host, Harrison Sheckler, and welcome to the Sheckler Spotlight. Today, the spotlight is on a remarkable figure in children's entertainment and puppetry. You may recognize him as the lovable bear from Bear in the Big Blue House, or as Magellan from Eureeka's Castle. He's also brought life to unforgettable characters on Sesame Street, The Puzzle Place, Ooby, Between the Lions, and even Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. He's an accomplished puppeteer, voice actor, writer, and Emmy-winning director whose creativity and warmth have touched generations. He shared his journey in a heartfelt and humorous memoir titled, Hey, This Was Really Fun, and recently took the stage as the voice and puppeteer of Audrey 2 in the off-Broadway revival of Little Shop of Horrors. The spotlight is now on you. Noel MacNeal, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, excited to talk with you today. I would just like to begin. How did you start on this magical world in puppetry? Where did it begin?
Basically, I always say that when I was growing up, there was more puppet shows on TV. So there was Sarah Lewis and Lamb Chop. There was Paul Winchell and his ventriloquist dummy, Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith. Paul Winchell also went on to become many, many characters for Hanna-Barbera and Disney, in particular Tigger. Paul Winchell, by the way, also helped invent the artificial heart. So puppeteers could save lives.
Wow.
And there was Captain Kangaroo, Mr. Rogers. There was local shows called like The Magic Garden, and of course there was this show that I remember a special about it on a Sunday night when I was a kid, and these two puppets were talking about the show starting tomorrow morning, and the puppets I had never seen puppets like that before because I'd seen Bill Baird marionettes from like The Sound of Music and sock puppets like Lamb Chop, but these two puppets, their mouths moved, and one had the head of a kind of looked like a football, the other one kind of had the head of a banana because it was yellow, and the names are Ernie and Bert, and they were talking about this brand new show coming on called Sesame Street, and so I watched Sesame Street. Of course, I knew how to count and what the letter Q looked like, but I just watched it for the Muppets, and all through the '70s was following their appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show and Flip Wilson and their specials, The Frog Prince and Hey Cinderella. And every Monday when I was in high school, on Monday nights, 7:30 p.m., was The Muppet Show. And I would watch that, and I was starting to make puppets and perform puppets. And so I began to wonder if this guy, Jim Henson, could make a living, then maybe I could too. So when it came time to pick colleges, by the way, my cat wants to say hi.
Oh, hi.
This, this
What's
is
your cat's
Lola.
name?
Lola.
Lola. Hi, Lola.
There we go.
So cute.
Go away. So then I do looking for college. This was the '70s. So I had to do research the old-fashioned way because there was no internet. So I went to the library, which is like Barnes and Noble, but it's free. And I found two colleges. And so I presented this to my mom. Now, presenting this to my mom, who's a single mom, whose husband, my father, walked out on us. And so she suddenly had to take care of an 18-month-old baby, her mother, and her uncle until it was just me and her. And I grew up in central Harlem. So the choices for junior high, high school was the school where the kid got stabbed or the school where the kid got shot. So she took a second job to put me through private school. So now I'm presenting this woman whose cheating husband left, who's taken a second job to put her kid through private school with, okay, I know what I want to be, a puppeteer. Huh? And she looked at me and said, okay, what do we have to do? And I was like, okay, well, there's this college and there's this college. Okay, what do we have to do? Well, this is due then, this is due then. Okay, what do we have to do? That's all she kept saying. She never dismissed it. She never belittled it. She never said have a backup plan. She just kept saying, okay, what do we have to do? And at the end of all this, I said, you're okay with this? And she was still a private secretary at the time. And she said, sweetheart, I've been typing the same letter for almost 20 years. you can always get a job. Don't get a job, get a career. And so I ended up going to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, which at the time had a theater department. And within the theater department was a puppetry course taught by the man who built Big Bird and Snuffy for Sesame Street, Kermit Love. And no, the frog was not named after him. It's just a freaky coincidence. And um, so then when it was time for my senior year, when I entered Pratt, I was told that the theater department was closing down. So I was the last theater major to be admitted. So by senior year, I would literally be in a class or classes by myself. But that September, before going back for my senior year, Kermit's assistant on Sesame Street quit and he offered me the job. And so after a nanosecond of consideration, I said yes and never went back to Pratt and started off as the wrangler. That's what his assistant meant, the person who preps the puppets and takes care of the puppets, and which also meant taking care of Big Bird, which also meant taking care of the man who created Big Bird and would become my friend and mentor, Caroll Spinney. And then I got to work with and got to know the puppeteers I grew up with, Fran Brill, Jerry Nelson, Richard Hunt, Frank Oz, and Jim Henson himself.
Wow, that is amazing. That's a great start. And it sounds like your mother was a really wise woman, just letting you run with your dream and seeing where it took you. And it took you pretty far. I think that's awesome.
It pretty much did. Yeah, I actually just did a show last week. I did my cabaret debut at a venue here in New York City called 54 Below, and it's pretty much a live version of my life story. And it was called "Hey, This Was Really Fun." So it starts off with me telling that story and songs that reflect my life. And so yeah, like sitting down and writing the book and then writing the show, I realized, yeah, I've done a lot.
You have done a lot. So it sounds like your mother was your big advocate starting out and seeing this big career. What were her thoughts on it? Seeing you make the different steps throughout the way.
She was really proud and also got a chance to visit sets that I worked on.
Oh,
So
did she? Okay.
she visited Sesame Street and more than once. And Richard Hunt, who was a puppeteer on Sesame Street and also on Fraggle Rock and The Muppet Show. You might know him on The Muppet Show as Scooter and
Mm-hmm.
Janice. Fraggle Rock, he was the voice of Junior Gorg. And on Sesame, he was characters like Forgetful Jones and Placido Flamingo. And whenever Richard saw my mom, I mean, my mom could charm anybody. And so whenever Richard saw her, he would just like run across the set, just like, Mom, and just give her the biggest hug and like pull over one of the director's chairs for her to like sit and watch. And so, yeah, she loved it. And she came out to, we shot Puzzle Place in the mid 90s in Los Angeles, like K, KTLA, and no, KCET was the public television station then. And she came out and visited, and it was great. And yeah, and then she would, when I got to do Bear, she would occasionally come on Bear trips because when Bear got to appear at the Walt Disney World Christmas Day Parade, which by the way is shot in November, um, she got to go on like two of the trips and actually helped like push the bear boxes out to the van to have it be taken to the park for like rehearsals and all that. So she loved it. She loved being a part of it. She actually took acting lessons um, from a young actor who had a studio on 25th Street, whose name was Sidney Portier. And one of her um, classmates was this young kid who always had like holes in his shoes, and she felt sorry for him. And it was never anything romantic. It was like platonic. And she would invite him back to her parents' place where she lived, and her mother would make her home cooking. And her classmate's name was a guy named Billy D. Williams. And she said, had I known then what I know now, your last name would not be McNeal.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I mean, it's awesome that your mom had these experiences and she was a huge influence. Who are some of the other big influences throughout, like your specific teachers, while you're taking this journey of puppetry?
I had a great art teacher in junior high school. It always like encouraged me to like draw and to doodle because doodling gets very underrated. So like doodling is great, and I helped me become the official illustrator for the high school the senior class yearbook. Um, and then teachers like well, I mean, Kermit was the puppetry teacher, and so giving me that chance at Sesame Street definitely helped. Uh, but there are other people who teach you things that aren't necessarily teachers in school. They're just people who teach you lessons, like um, John Stone and Lisa Simon were two of the chief directors at Sesame Street, and I learned so much from them of like how to compose a shot and how to keep a story flowing visually. And so they're really great. Also, Hugh Martin, who was the primary director for Eureka's Castle, and so people like that. But also my wife, Susan Ely McNeal, the author of the Maggie Hope Mysteries, available on Amazon and your local independent bookstore deal, and Mother Daughter Trade a Spy. Uh, she still believes in me and still inspires me to like follow my dreams as she's followed hers, being a novelist, and also my son, who uh, who inspires me just to be like a better role model. And so, um, and that's what Bear really was. Bear was the caregiver we always want to be and strive to be. And so, in a lot of ways, like Bear also taught me uh, to be getting ready for a parent. Because when I did Bear, I wasn't a parent yet. And so when I became a parent, I would try to like use those lessons that Bear would use dealing with his friends and just like, yes, I've got this thing to do, but yes, I will stop. And yes, I will listen. And yes, I will help you. Even though I'm trying to take a nap. Yes. What would you like?
So, like kids were learning life lessons, you were learning life lessons in the process of being Bear as well.
Yeah, it was great. We did one of the most popular episodes that people watched and also bought on like Amazon on VHS and DVD was the infamous potty episode. And so, you know, I wasn't a dad yet, and it's just like I when I got into Bear before we started, Bear addressed the crew and said, "All right, for the next 2 days, you will be hearing the following words: poop, pee, potty, toilet, diaper. Just get all the jokes out of your system now." Great. All right. Roll tape.
Well, that's funny. That's so great. Well, how did it begin with Bear? What was the audition process? How did you get the role of Bear?
Um, it was in March of 1997, and it was a Friday. And I had gotten a call to come in that morning to audition for this very large character for a kids show that would be a game show. And so I went to the location, got inside the puppet, did the bit. They thanked me. I thanked them. I left. Didn't think any more about it. By the way, did not get picked up. Um, and then later that same day, around 4 o'clock, the Jim Henson Company called back and said, "No, there's another character we'd like you to audition for." And so they faxed me, yes, kids, faxed me the sides and the sketch. And I only lived 20 minutes away, so I hopped in the cab and I was looking at the sketch, and it was cute. It was these little critters in the front and this big smiling moon in the back. And in between them stood this very large bear. So I got out, went inside, and as soon as I walked in, I was told, "Use your own voice." Like, what? But with the Muppets, we don't do that. Well, it was two reasons. One, all day long they had heard Muppety voices like, "Hi, I'm a bear," and "Hi, I'm a big old bear." And they really didn't want that because, two, the show was designed for kids and their caregivers to watch together. And since the bear was going to be the adult role model, they wanted him to have a fairly normal, even like calm voice. And at the time, like I said, I still wasn't a dad yet. But whenever I visited friends who had kids, I would go into what I call Uncle Noel mode, which was my voice slightly pitched up, but really the attitude of, okay, whatever you want to do, I'm in. So I got into the prototype, which was the entire body puppet, but without the fur. And I could see through the netting at the camera and the monitor and see what I was doing. And as soon as I got in, it felt so nice. It felt so comforting. I thought, I could really have fun with this guy. And then reality hit. And I said to myself, no, it's Friday. It's 4:45. They have already picked out who they want. They just want to make sure they made the right decision. And so I just said, screw it. I'm going to have fun anyway. And I did. I ran around. And when it came time in the script for him to realize the smell he was smelling was the kid at home, I took his nose, jammed it into the lens, pulled it out, and responded, "It's you!" And pushed it in again and pulled it out and finished the bit. They thanked me, I thanked them, and I left and didn't think any more about it. And then the following Monday, just before 6 o'clock, that's when the Jim Henson Company called and offered me the part of Bear in the Big Blue House.
Wow. Wow, that's exciting. So I know that I have a lot of actor friends and they say they do audition after audition. Is it same in the puppeteering world where you just go, yep, it's another audition and I'm just gonna, well, forget about that one and go on to the next and hope you
Yeah.
get lucky? Is that just the same process?
Oh yeah, because I've auditioned for other puppet shows and I didn't get it. So it's just like, yeah, you just go in and pretty much that audition taught me just like, you know what, just go in and just have fun with the moment and don't care. Just
Hmm.
go in, have fun, do whatever you want to do because it's so arbitrary and it's not you did anything wrong. It's just their own decision of what they want. And so just go in, have fun, and literally as soon as your feet hit the street, just forget about it and don't think any more of it. And that's what happened with Bear. But I've done other auditions for puppet shows, and I just didn't get it for no reason other than that's not they were what they were looking for.
I think that's great advice. Now
Yeah,
with
because Jim believed that puppeteers are actors. We just act from the elbow up. So
exactly,
we are
exactly.
actors. We just you just don't see our faces. So it's the same principle.
Hmm. Hmm. And you talked, you mentioned that you were in the prototype and it's this full body suit with Bear.
Hmm.
And now is it you use your arm to do the mouth, right? Is it up in the air? What's like the positioning in the suit? Because we don't really get to see the inside.
It's um it's it's what we call the Big Bird technology, where
Big Bird
Carol would
technology.
put his right arm up through Big Bird's neck, and his hand would be in Big Bird's beak with a little trigger for Big Bird's eyelids. And then strapped to his chest was a monitor, a tiny TV set, and a
Oh, okay.
microphone next to it. So what you saw at home is what he saw. And so it was the same thing with Bear. My arm would go up through Bear's neck into his head. I would put my hand in his mouth, and there'd be a little trigger for moving his eyebrows and eyelids. And there was a monitor strapped to my chest and the microphone right above. And my left arm would be in his left arm. And then there would be this very thin monofilament, like fishing line, that went from the left wrist up through a ring under his chin down to the right arm, which was stuffed. And so whenever the left arm moved, the right arm would move like cantilevered.
Oh,
And
okay.
when Bear would dance, then we had different lengths so that when he would dance, then both arms would move vigorously so that it would like amplify like his movement. But yeah, but with Bear, I couldn't see out. So what you saw at
Mm.
home is what I saw. And the thing is, with a monitor, um, it's not a mirror, it's reversed. So if my hand physically turned Bear's head to the left on the monitor, it looks like he's looking to my right. And it's just training that you just get used to after all these years. And if you ever look at the show again, because it's back on Disney Plus,
Hmm.
the foyer has this nice rug and there's a threshold, a piece of wood in the doorway for the kitchen and for the living room. And so that's when I could actually like feel with my feet where I was standing. And then I would sometimes like back up very slowly so I could feel the banister behind me. And that's when Bear could just turn around and start to go up the stairs. So it's kind of like learning how to maneuver in your home when you're suddenly blind.
Mm-hmm. Kind of
Yeah.
having to count the steps and just feel your way around. Oh, that's
Oh yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, but for the day before we started shooting, I actually went by the set and just me, and I went around the foyer, and I closed my eyes and just like kind of get a sense of like how it felt and how many steps it took to go up like the first bit of stairs until the landing, and then the next bit of stairs, and just did it several times just in my head, so I just got comfortable, like just feeling it rather than seeing it.
Wow. There's a lot of physicality with a puppet that size. I mean, is it exhausting work or is it actually not too bad in there?
Um, Someone asked me like more than one person actually asked me like how hot it was, and it's like it got warm because fur gets warm. So I put a little thermometer in one time, and it got up to like around like 92 degrees inside
Ooh.
when I'm really like hustling and dancing, and because people also ask like, were you the voice too? It's like yes, 99% of the time the puppeteer is also the voice. So when I was in Bear, I was also talking as Bear, and a lot of times I would talk and then lip sync to the song that I recorded in Bear's voice, and then immediately talk again to throw it to like the segment called "What Do You Think?" and have to not sound out of breath. And so, excuse me. And so with that, you just exercise, you just train yourself, like do push-ups, you do sit-ups, lift weights. Carol taught me this exercise. He would go around his home with like a little 3-pound weight and just hold it over his head and just walk around and like answer phone calls and just like talk but hold the weight over his head and just like well put stuff away but hold it over his head just to get the stamina up, and then of course do the other side because you know his right side looked like Popeye and the left side looked like Bert's arm, which is all floppy and soggy, like, so he has to kind of like balance it out. So it's like, and that's why I've taught puppeteers when I've done audition and training for the co-productions of Sesame Street. Just tell them like, you gotta get in shape. Like, get your core together so that you can like build up stamina to like hold your arm up, especially in a crowd scene, because you can't suddenly just get tired and pull your arm down. It's like if you're in a crowd scene, you got to stay up. And sometimes the bit isn't about you. You just have to be there.
Oh, that's interesting. And you've done so much with different types of puppets. I just saw that you were the swing for Audrey too, and that's a huge puppet too. And I think I saw a video. You said it was like you're doing bicep curls with inside that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
w-
this
w-
great it's this great documentary called Waiting in the Wings YouTube channel, and it's called Little Shop of Audrey, and it's pretty
Oh,
much the
okay.
history of Little Shop of Horrors. They did a great job, and they came by and we showed them like how it works and how the Audrey 2 is actually four puppets. The first one being Pod 1, and it's the little one that Simo puts down and gives it the first drops of blood. And with that one, um, it's like an old trick where you like, you put it down and somebody's under the counter and takes out the false bottom, and then you put your hand up inside, and that's when you open and close when he feeds the blood. Of course, with um with Audrey too, she's she's an actor because we are acting, but you see her, but she doesn't move for a while. So you
Hmm.
see her there. And so that's what makes those moments really great. So when you're under the counter, I timed it one time. It's almost 18 minutes where you're just sitting under the counter waiting for that moment during Grow For Me when he finally puts it down, and then you could take the bottom out and put your hand up inside. So that's why we have like little word puzzles under the counter that we can work
Do you
on
really?
and entertain. Yes, we just entertain ourselves. It's just like it's great. And
Oh,
then
that's great.
Pod Two is actually performed by Seymour himself. So the actor, most of the time, the actors have never had puppet training, so you have to train them in order to do the puppetry and sing and do choreography at the same time. Then there's Pod Three for the song "Get It" or "Feed Me." And that's when you're sitting inside. But again, like you're waiting. You're just waiting until after, the scene with the dentist and Mushnick and son and Seymour comes in. And that's when you can actually like lip sync to Major Attaway's voice, who's the voice of Audrey too. But before that, you have to sit perfectly still. You can't move. You just have to sit there waiting and waiting
Mm.
and waiting. And then for Act Two, when you come back, that's when she's her biggest, Pod Four, which is actually, and it's all in the documentary. And yeah, that's when you're inside. You wear this padded vest like motocross people wear, and you just lift her up, and it's like on your shoulders, so you can like tip her left and right, and turn her left and right, and then to make her mouth move, you just like push down on this bar and pull up on it. So it is kind of like doing like constant bicep curls with resistance bands in order to make her talk. And it's great. They were all these puppets for this production was designed by Monkey Boys Productions, who also do a lot of the puppet effects for SNL.
Mm. Oh, that's awesome. You I remember at the beginning you mentioned Bill Baird, and I just remembered that my first experience of with a puppet show. So I'm from Charles City, Iowa, and in
Okay.
Mason City, Iowa, they have the McNider Art Museum, and they house many of Bill Baird's marionettes. And so the
Mm.
marionettes from The Sound of Music, some of those are there, and you can see those in person. And it also Mason City, for those who don't know, that's where Meredith Willson is from, and so they have the Music Man. And so I remember going on this field trip and seeing my first puppet show at this museum, and with Bill Baird's puppets, and we also went to Music Man Square. Um, but there were so many different types of puppets that they had in here. During puppet school, do you specifically train in one area, or is it like the whole gamut? You do it all, or not puppet school,
Um,
but you went to drama school. But
I know it's just like I like that like puppet school.
yeah,
Like
puppet
today,
school.
puppet school. Okay. Um, it depends on like the course you take. I mean, there are actually more courses at more colleges across the country now,
Hmm.
because thanks to like, the good old internet, you can Google and you can find like different colleges that do offer puppetry. For instance, the University of Connecticut in Stores, Connecticut has a complete 4-year program where you can even get your bachelor's and even master's degree in puppetry. And
Oh.
and like you said, there are different forms of puppetry because people ask me, like, how do I become a puppeteer?
Hmm.
And then I always have to answer it with a question. I said, do you want to be a puppeteer or do you want to be a muppeteer? Because
Ah.
there are many, many ways to be a puppeteer because of the different styles. There's marionettes, there's
Hmm.
shadow, there's ventriloquism, there's all kinds of ways to be a puppeteer. But to be a Muppeteer is a specific style that was created by Jim Henson. And so I'll say that, oh, how can I get on, Sesame Street? I'd love to work on Sesame Street. But it's like, well, right now, the Muppets and Sesame Street have all the puppeteers they need. I'm not saying they'll never happen. I'm just saying right now, they've got it covered. But then I'll say, but why don't you take this desire and this drive, and why don't you create the next Sesame Street and the next Muppet Show? And, because that's what Jim did. Sesame Street had never existed before, and he got pulled in by Joan Gans Cooney and John Stone. And then the Muppet Show, that kind of show had never existed. And then, the Muppet movie, a movie with like all these like Muppets in it, and then which also spawned like, the Dark Crystal, which was like all puppets and no people. So why don't you take that and, create your own thing? And there's so many outlets now where you could do it. There's TikTok, there's YouTube, there's Instagram. There's probably something being invented right now by the time we finish talking. And so, just use your creativity and your drive and do that.
So do you take that advice? Are you doing anything creative that we don't know about that you might be working on?
Um, I've been trying to develop this show for kids with autism and special needs called the Show Me Show, which is I have a channel on YouTube and I've done little videos that I've put on. And so trying to like pursue that. And
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, just been developing it. Um, and then, my cabaret show was like my latest like creative thing and like wanting to do that because that's that's what these days to try and do something that is inspiring not only for you but if it
Hmm.
inspires somebody else that's great also. And so yeah, so I've been doing that. And I've got like other couple of things coming up which I can't talk about now thanks to having signed a non-disclosure
Sure,
agreement,
sure.
but fingers crossed.
Well, I would love to hear about your performance at 50 4 Below. What was that experience like and putting it together? I saw there's clips online of it and it looked like it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, 54 Below YouTube channel has put up 3 clips from the show, which was last week. And they've already, even before doing the show, because ticket sales were so good, they invited me and my colleagues back to do an encore performance on May 5th.
Oh,
So,
that's exciting.
yeah, yes.
Okay, May
So,
5th. Everyone needs to make it out to
yeah.
to New York. That's
Yes,
awesome.
right, right. And if you can't, hopefully there's another live stream because there was a live stream also for those of people out of town. Um, and so, yeah, it was the kind of thing where I met Michael Kirk Lane, who is this incredible cabaret director, and we just started casually talking about it, and then it just developed, and it started last almost around this time last year, and it just like casually talking about it and developing it and what it would be, what would I like to do because with a cabaret is not like karaoke. You're not just going up there and just singing a bunch of songs. There has to be a journey. It's a story that you're inviting the audience to go along with you. And so trying to figure what that was, and and Michael had actually read my book, and so he thought, the show could be that. It could be a musical journey of your life. And so that's when we started talking about it. I started to write. We started thinking of songs, and then I wrote the script, and it kept developing and evolving. Like things would get taken out, things would get put in, and yeah, and it was like like 9 months later, then we had a show, and so it was really good. It was like this real masterclass, and how to put together a cabaret show, and just really have fun with it.
Oh, that's awesome. What was the reception of the people there? I mean, I can imagine what it would be, but
It was great. I actually had a nice like sort of trial run being on 54 Below stage in January. A friend of mine, Julia Darling, is part of an organization called Puppetry on Broadway, and she organizes tours and seminars and performances with puppeteers who are on Broadway and off Broadway. Um, in fact, there's going to be a show she's putting together in July at 54 Below to celebrate Disneyland's 70th birthday. And she's invited me to be a part of it to sing like a Disney song. And
oh
then
wow.
in October 30th and 31st, it's going to be like a Halloween themed show at 54 Below. And so, yeah, so um, I got to do it in January and being on the stage and also getting the layout of like how 54 Below worked. And so it was great. And so when in January, it was co-hosted by Jen Barnhart, who's this incredible puppeteer and actress. She's one of the original performers from the Broadway musical Avenue Q. And so she had her character, one of the bad idea bears, Clover, who and we came up with this bit where Clover wants to get back on Broadway, but she needs help. And that's when Bear, and I have a bear puppet. So it's a puppet of a puppet, which is very meta. and that was built by my friend James Voigtop. And so Bear comes on stage and she tells him that she wants to be back on Broadway and she wants to be in Wicked.
Oh.
And and there's a clip of it on my Instagram page. And Bear says, "Didn't Avenue Q win the Tony over?" And she shushes him immediately. He said, "No, no, 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 no. Nobody needs to be reminded of that. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine."
Oh, that's great.
And so we sing, and so Bear and her sing the song "Wonderful" from
Oh.
Wicked, which
Hmm.
if you've seen the movie,
Hmm.
it's not in that part of the movie. It'll be in part two. So, but it was fun. So then I got a chance to see what it was like to be on the stage. And so when I went back last week, it felt comfortable again. It's a tiny stage, so you really have to think of like what you need and absolutely don't need on
Yeah.
the stage.
So you in this you got to do a little more than just puppeteering. You're singing, you're performing, and you're telling your life's story.
Yeah.
So it's May 5th is the next performance.
Yes, at 7 p.m.
Do you see yourself doing more cabaret in the future?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, it was really fun. I mean, the fact that Julia asked me to be a part of this cabaret potentially in July for Disneyland, and I wouldn't have a puppet. It would just be me
Hmm.
actually just
Hmm.
singing. So I was like, okay. And so yeah, I'm at the stage in my life now. It's like, try it, just try. Because my mom always believed you haven't failed if you tried. And so like try it. So I tried this and it's like, yeah, this felt good. And so I'll try like the next step, which is just me singing, like on the show. So yeah, it was fun and I really enjoyed it. And like, who knows what I'm going to be doing next, but can't wait to find out.
Oh, I love that. Well, another avenue that you explored was a little outside of children's shows, but it was the John Oliver show, and you have, I guess, more satirical adult focus. What's that experience like going from one spectrum to the other?
Um, with John, first of all, John Oliver is truly one of the most nicest guys I've ever gotten to know and work with. He is so smart and so funny and so appreciative and respectful of what I and puppeteers do. He did this Vulture interview like 2 years ago, and he mentioned me. And also, he's done stuff for Sesame Street, and he appreciates the fact that we are trained professionals, just like a trained musician. And it's not easy what we do, and really respectful and appreciative of what and how we do what we do. So with John, um, that show just runs the gamut of like ridiculous characters from Jeff the diseased lung in a yellow cowboy hat to a moose getting a colonoscopy to the foul-mouthed squirrel, Mr. Nutterbutter, to the latest incarnation, public domain's Steamboat Mickey. And so what I always try to do is there'll be like a run through
Hmm.
and with John stand-in. And then there'll be the run through where John will come and like run through the show and including the part where I come out at whatever it is. And my goal is always if I can make John laugh doing the because he doesn't see it. That's the first time he ever sees this thing. If I can make John laugh during the rehearsal, then I'm set. Like I know this works. And I remember the first time I came out as Mr. Nutterbutter, this giant squirrel. I came out and went right up to him and just did this. I was able to like just like jerk the head around like the way a squirrel does.
Yeah.
And John just lost it. Like he couldn't talk.
Yeah.
And so I was just inside, I was just like, yes. And so that's always the goal to make John laugh. And yeah, and I'm usually the first choice when something big and ridiculous comes. It's like, yeah, it's like, is Noel free? Call Noel.
Do you get to have any artistic input onto exactly what you might say or whatnot, or are they pretty strict with time, or is it
I
improv
mean, it's just like it's just not improv. It's scripted, and
scripted?
so I'll
Okay.
get the script and I'll just like memorize the the lines because there ain't no room to put the script inside. And so, and with the run through, that's when the writers are there and they'll see what works and they'll see what doesn't, and we'll see what could be added. And so so sometimes I'll get like an updated script with like more lines or that
Hmm.
line's been changed somehow. So it's really it's really a well-oiled machine they got going there. Um, but yeah, it's just like it just runs the gamut of just ridiculousness and silliness. Because John tackles very serious
Hmm.
subjects
He does. Hmm.
and 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 then always tries to find like that little comic take on it, which really appreciate. I've described the show as 60 Minutes meets Monty Python.
I like that comparison. That is great. That is great. Well, he does talk about a lot of important issues. What are some important things to you that in your life that mean a lot to you? Um, I guess just
Uh,
yeah. I mean, because I mean,
just being
obviously,
a human being.
yeah, just being things that you really care about, that you want to get across with your work.
um, it's basically just being like a nice human being because the day after I graduated high school, my mom, my grandmother, and I went to the theater in Manhattan called the Ziegfeld, and we saw the Muppet movie. It was June
Mhm.
1979. We saw the Muppet movie, and that kid sitting there in the dark had no idea of the life he was going to have, and the people he was going to meet, including the people and the characters that was up on the screen. But what the real takeaway for me was the fact that this frog, this talking frog, and I had the same dream of singing and dancing, and making people happy. And that was Jim's philosophy of just like it's a good life, you know. So be nice to each other. And it's like such a basic thing that just has to be reminded on a daily basis. Like just be nice to each other. That's all. You don't have to go out of your way to hurt somebody or make somebody else's life miserable for whatever reason. Just be nice to each other and respectful. I worked on the show The Puzzle Place in the
Mhm.
90s, and basically it was, you know, the show teaching tolerance and respect. It's like, and I wrote this one. I was also a writer for the show, and I wrote this one script called "Dressing Up is Hard to Do," and the kids want to have a grown-up party, and but Julie, one of the characters, doesn't like the outfit that Jodie has picked out and says she looks like a baby. And then when my character Leon like teases Julie about the costume she outfit she's wearing, she can't believe how could he say such a thing, and then realizes that's exactly what she did to Jodie. So I also co-wrote this song called "It's You," which basically the premise is just like, you know, I may not like what you are wearing, but I have to respect that that's your choice. And so that's pretty much it. It's just respect. It's like, I may not like it, may not understand it, but I will respect it. And you have the right to wear whatever you want. And it's pretty much goes beyond like, you know, you have the right to be whoever you want to be. And it's that simple.
I think that is a great message, and I really do think the work that you've done with your different children's shows, we've, I mean, me as an audience member, I grew up with your shows. I received those messages, and I think they're very important for our children to hear and adults to hear as well. Um, did you see with Bear? Well, you probably didn't when it first started out having this huge impact, but what has been the reception over the years from some of these messages that you've given on the show about respecting others and just the life? It's kind of taken a life of its own. What's been the reception from people even today who maybe didn't grow up with the show?
When we did the show, we had fun. Me, Vicky Eibner, Peter Lenz, Tyler Bunch, Jim Krupa. We had a great time. And the show, by fourth season, we knew the show was popular, so we would have, you know, kids visit, and it was great. But we really had no idea the legacy that this show would have, you know, 20 something years later, and the fact that the kids who grew up at Bear are now introducing their kids to Bear. Um, and so it's a very timeless show if you
Hmm.
just watch it. And it's a very calming, it's a very soothing show. It's very sweet. It's very sincere. It's not loud. It's not in your face. It's a very nicely paced show with great songs by like Peter Lorre and Brian
Hmm.
Woodbury and other composers. Um, and the fact that so many people just thank me for those moments that they could share with their kids, or they could actually cook a meal or go to the bathroom knowing that the kids were all right with Bear for just those few minutes. But just like I said, the show was designed for kids and their caregivers to enjoy together. So the fact that these people still think of this as a cherished memory of childhood that they shared with their kids and kids can now share with their kids, it's very special. And I don't take it lightly. And I'm very honored and privileged. I get to go to Comic Cons again. I'm going to one this weekend in Texas. And I was at one in Massachusetts recently, and people just, thanking me for the show and like everything that the show represented. And it's really lovely that it the very last episode of Bear was my idea. And I said, what if Bear's friends thought he was leaving? And so it's this sort of like miscommunication and misinterpretation that he's actually won a vacation for him and his friends. But before that, they do this little like "This Is Your Life" Bear in a song called "Thank You Bear," like appreciation, and the theme of it was appreciation. So that when Bear goes to like the Sequoia City Lodge that just happens to have a balcony that he steps out on and happens to see Luna. Um, that's when Luna says that, we touch, like our life touches so many others every day. And wouldn't it be nice if we could always touch each other's lives in a positive way? And that's what this show did. It just like it touched so many countless lives. People I've met, people I've done cameos for, people who I've never met and probably never will, but still the show meant and still means so much to them. And Bear was seen around the world. It was like huge in the UK and Ireland. It was seen in Italy. It was seen in Mexico and Australia, like Singapore, all over where there was the Disney Channel. And so it means a lot that this Bruin who owned a home and a mortgage got to like help people's childhoods.
It's been amazing, and I know that it's meant a lot to me and so many people. So thank you for what you've done over the years. We really appreciate it. We do.
Oh, you're welcome. It was
Yeah.
nothing.
For listeners dreaming of possibly working in puppetry or performance or any creative art,
Right.
what advice would you give them?
Um, like I said, if you want to become a puppeteer and explore that, there's the Puppeteers of America that you could like contact. There might be even a local branch in your city or town. Local theater community. They might have puppeteers that they worked with on different productions. You can like explore puppetry now on like YouTube, and I'm talking good puppetry
Hmm.
uh, on YouTube. Um, but in terms of just like the people are so like thrown by the word creativity and just like, oh, I can never be creative or I'm not creative. It's like creativity doesn't mean, painting the Mona Lisa or writing an opera. You could be creative in like making dinner and like organizing your day and just like in your exercise and and in just parenting. That's constantly being creative and thinking of what to do next with your kid. And you know just like making you can make a drawing or a poem or a song that's just for you. It doesn't have to be shown by anybody. You can just make it for you. And if it makes you feel good, that's great. If you want to share it, all right. But you don't have to. You could just just do something for yourself, which is great. It's part of like self-care. And if that actually helps you feel more creative and relaxed and helps you feel good about yourself, then just go ahead and do it. And if it's bad, so what? At least you tried. It's like do it again and see what else will happen. It's fine.
Oh, I think it's great. I actually wrote a list of 100 goals that I would like something crazy. I just put a number out there and I did
Wow.
100. Yeah, I know 100 goals of things I would just like to tackle in 2025. So it's probably a crazy bucket list. Um, but there's so many things that I put random things like I want to take a cooking class. I would like to take some voice lessons just because there's things I haven't done, and you only live one life, and
Yep.
you like you said, you got to be creative in whatever life avenue you proceed on. And it's been a wonderful journey with that mindset of saying I'm going to try something new every day. And it's been amazing the people that I've met. I mean, starting a new podcast, inviting wonderful people like yourself on and hearing about their journeys. It's so edifying. And so I appreciate you saying that.
Oh, sure. It's like now more than ever, I feel like the official word of 2025 is community.
Hmm.
And you get to know your community. You get to even create your own community, like you said, by doing these classes, and you're meeting more people and getting more in contact with people in person because you could be with the phone, with the internet, you could be so isolated, insular that you need to be with other people. We're a very social,
Hmm.
species, and this kind of technology tends to like, cut us off sometimes. So, you know, whenever you get a chance, like be with your friends, get together with your friends, have like a game night or, meet for a coffee. And if you need to like, discuss, you know, things that are happening, and apparently there's a lot happening, that's fine because you're doing it in person. You're doing it with another person. It's not just you. And you can actually, commiserate and vent and have somebody understand and maybe even spark an idea of like, okay, now what can we do to make this situation better? And so being with other people and your community will definitely help.
I think that's really, really important. So when you're not um, at work and pursuing the creative endeavor of puppeteering, what things do you like to do in your free time? What does Noel like to do?
Noah likes to, scroll. Um, like, hey, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I'm not so enlightened. Like, yeah, I like to scroll through Instagram and all that. Um, I like to, I like to, I like to exercise. I mean, I have to,
Hmm.
especially because of like little shop. So I do that like 3 or 4 times a week. But I really enjoy it. I'm probably in better shape now than I was in my 20s.
Wow.
I like to read, I like to listen to new music. I like to cook. Like to get together with friends and like, um once a week I like to get together, like try a new, cocktail bar
Hmm.
somewhere. I like playing games like with my son. Like he loves Magic the Gathering, um, as I did when I was younger. And now sometimes we'll play that, or sometimes we'll play Lorcana, which is Disney's version of the same thing. And I actually know a really good one of the illustrators, Dave Alvarez, who's like has done uh, cards for them. So yeah, and walks. Like we have a park a block away, and just like walking outside, getting fresh air. Now that the weather is getting warmer
Hmm.
and winter seems to be done for a while, uh, just getting out and just like walking and just listening to podcasts. For instance, this one.
Yeah. We'll direct everyone to it. Well, it sounds like you have a very balanced life, and I think that's very important for people to have. And so I can encourage listeners to find those creative endeavors and interest and uh, find time for yourself. I think, like you said, sometimes we're a little too plugged in and we kind of pass the world going by.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. One it's like self-care. Those are like the two most important words, like right now, self-care. And like in the morning, I will. get up, I will stretch, I'll have like water and coffee, and then I'll sit for like half an hour and do nothing. Like I won't scroll,
That's
I
unheard
won't
of.
pick up a bird, a book or anything. And I would like, and the cat will, like Lola, who you met, will sit on
Hmm.
my lap. And for like a half an hour, I would just chill and just do nothing. And that takes a lot because we live in such a capitalistic society that thinks like if you're not doing anything, then you're not being productive. And God forbid you take a nap, which by the way, naps are awesome. I love naps. And yeah, so just giving yourself time, even like 5 minutes, just reset yourself and just sit down and just do nothing and take, deep breaths, like 4 breaths in, hold for 4 seconds, and like 6 breaths out slowly, and just like do nothing, especially when you're stressed. That like helps too. And just like do nothing. Because like Pooh Bear said, like, you're not doing nothing, you're doing something.
That's great advice. Great advice. I know that I'm a professional pianist, and we spend 6 to 8 hours, when we're preparing for a concert, practicing, and it always feels like if we're not practicing, we're not reaching our full potential. But I
Yeah.
have been trying to be more conscientious of taking small, like you said, small little breaks. And what's actually been amazing is when I do take those small breaks, for some reason, things kind of fall into place that I was working on, and like that magic of the creativity, and even when like I'm composing things, some wonderful ideas come when I'm just sitting in silence and just waiting for, I guess, that muse to inspire. So I think it's very important.
Yeah. And like I said, like there's if you get out and just take a walk, especially if there's like a park or a
Hmm.
trail near you, like just do that for a few minutes each day. And it's just like because and you could listen to a podcast while you're walking or some music, or you could just not and
Hmm.
just take in the sounds that are around you, and sometimes no sound, which can also be very comforting. Like I said, when I wake up in the morning, it's like during that time, like if it's early enough, then it's just quiet. It's like there's no traffic, there's no airplanes, no siren, nothing. It's just quiet before your mind and your ears get inundated. I live in a city, so
Hmm.
before your mind and ears get inundated, just quiet really helps. So yeah, so you're in tune with yourself.
Valuable advice, and I hope people take it. So, Noel, we're coming towards the end of our podcast, and one thing I like to do with our guests is I have a 1 minute rapid fire challenge of
Ah,
questions.
one of
So,
those. Okay.
yes, are you up for the challenge?
Sure.
Okay, so let me get my list ready, and here is our timer.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it 100? It's like your goals is like 100 questions in 1 minute.
No, no, just
Okay.
however you want to answer them. We'll see what we can do
Okay.
in 1 minute. So,
Okay.
starting now.
All right.
What was the most challenging character to puppeteer?
Oh, it's Audrey to Pod 4 because of the fact that she's so big and trying to get the most articulation and movement out of this sort of like Titanic with vines.
What's your favorite children's show growing up?
Oh, it was the Magic Garden here in New York City, hosted by Carol and Paula. Love that show so much.
What was a go-to snack during a long rehearsal?
It's like potato chips.
Potato chips.
Yes.
What is your most memorable fan interaction? I don't know if you can answer this quickly, but
Actually, it's this great place called Give Kids the World in Central Florida, and I went there as Bear because it was part of Bear being in the Christmas Day parade. And I always wanted to do um, children's hospital. So it's this great place it's a resort for critically ill kids. And I did a little show, and the little girl who happened to be in the audience was there to meet Bear at the time at the Disney MGM studios. But it was just sheer coincidence that I was there. And so she got to actually talk to Bear and ask questions and have a great time. And then I said, as Bear, later on, you'll see me in the show and I'll have another show to do afterwards. So my voice will be kind of tired. So I won't be talking to you because those bears weren't allowed to talk. But Bear said, but I'll certainly give you a lot of hugs and let's practice. And we like hugging. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're definitely over a minute now, but that was a
Dang it.
great answer to a great question. And wow, oh, that's so sweet. No, I just want to thank you for joining me today. Your work has brought so much joy and just to generations, and it continues to do so through every puppet you bring to life. And I just want to say it's been an honor to have you on the Sheckler Spotlight. Oh, I do have one question, and I hope you don't mind me asking.
Okay.
Do you have time for a goodbye song?
Oh, sure. Always like time for saying goodbye, but in a really good way. So it's goodbye, goodbye, good friends, goodbye. And tomorrow, just like today, the moon, the bear, and the big blue house will be waiting for you to come and play, to come and play, to come and play. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to the Sheckler Spotlight with your host, Harrison Sheckler. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the show with a friend. New conversations drop regularly, so stay tuned. And thanks again for listening and being a part of the journey. Follow Harrison Sheckler on social media and visit harrisonsheckler.com to learn more.